The rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Balogun Tower, a rhythmic, violent sound that matched the pounding in Amara's chest. She stood in the center of the penthouse, her cheap, damp shoes leaving faint marks on the Persian rug. Across from her, Zane Balogun, the man the Lagos press called the Iron King, was calmly shredding a piece of paper. The fragments fluttered to the floor like snow. "You're leaving?" he asked, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. "After everything?" Amara's voice trembled, but her eyes remained fierce. "The world knows, Zane. They know I was bought. They know I'm just an entry in your ledger. I can't live as a transaction anymore." She turned toward the elevator, her heart breaking with every step. "Wait," he whispered, a sound so uncharacteristic of the mogul that she actually stopped. But before he could speak, the elevator doors hissed open and a swarm of flashbulbs blinded them. The scandal hadn't just broken, it was exploding. 4 weeks earlier, the sun had been a relentless hammer over the Lagos mainland. Amara wiped sweat from her brow as she balanced a heavy tray of hors d'oeuvres. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from the hospital. "Balance due, 1.2 million Naira. Surgery scheduled for Friday. Payment required to proceed." Her sister Ife was fatting. Ife was only 10, a brilliant girl whose heart was failing her. Amara worked 3 jobs, a junior architect by day, a caterer by night, and a freelance tutor on weekends. It was never enough. "Amara, move it. The Balogun Gala doesn't wait for daydreamers," her boss barked. The Balogun estate in Ikoyi was a fortress of glass, steel, and intimidating wealth. As Amara moved through the crowd of celebrities and politicians, she felt like a ghost in a room full of gods. Then she saw him. Zane Balogun stood in a circle of older men, his presence commanding the very air. He was strikingly handsome in a way that felt sharp, like a diamond that could cut you. "He hasn't smiled once tonight," a fellow server whispered. "They say he's got a heart made of microchips." Amara wasn't looking for a heart, she was looking for a way out of the room. But as she pivoted to avoid a drunken socialite, her foot caught on the edge of a marble planter. Time slowed. The tray tilted. A glass of deep, red hibiscus wine launched into the air. It landed squarely on the pristine white lapel of Zane Balogun's bespoke suit. The room went silent, the music seemed to die. Amara gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. I am so sorry, sir, please let me." She reached out with a napkin, frantically dabbing at his chest. Zane didn't flinch. He looked down at her hand, then up at her face. His eyes weren't angry, they were analytical, cold, and intensely focused. "Do you know how much this suit costs?" he asked. The silence around them deepened. "More than I make in a year, I suspect," Amara said, her fear suddenly curdling into a strange, defiant honesty. She dropped the napkin. "But unless your suit is more important than my sister's life, I'm not going to cry about it. Fire me if you must. I've already lost everything else." Zane's eyebrows flickered. It was the first sign of life anyone had seen from him all night. He looked at her name tag. Amara, an architect's eye, a caterer's hands, and a martyr's tongue. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping so only she could hear. "Don't go anywhere. My assistant will find you in 10 minutes. If you leave, I'll make sure you never work in this city again." 10 minutes later, Amara was ushered into a private library that smelled of old leather and expensive scotch. Zane was there, his ruined jacket discarded. He stood behind a desk of dark wood, silhouetted against the Lagos skyline. "Sit," he commanded. "I'd rather stand," she countered. Zane leaned forward, the desk lamps casting sharp shadows across his face. "I have a problem, Amara. My father, in his infinite wisdom, tied my inheritance of the global firm to a morality clause. I must be married by my 32nd birthday to take full control. That birthday is in 30 days. Amara frowned. "Why are you telling me this? You have a line of socialites out there who would kill for that spot." "Socialites want my name. They want my money for shoes and status. They are predictable and easily bought by my rivals," Zane said, standing up and walking toward her. I need someone who isn't part of that world. Someone who needs something so badly they'll play the part perfectly, but who has enough spine to not fold when my father starts digging. He pulled a document from a folder. I've had my team run a background check in the last 5 minutes. Your sister, Ife, cardiomyopathy. The surgery is expensive, the recovery even more so. Amara felt a chill. You've been spying on me. I've been vetting a business partner, Zane corrected. Here is the offer: 1 year of marriage, separate bedrooms. You will attend every gala, every board dinner, and every family brunch. You will be the devoted, loving wife of Zane Balogun. In exchange, I will pay for your sister's surgery tonight. I will fly in the best surgeons from London. Upon the completion of the year, I will give you 50 million Naira and a divorce. The number made Amara's head spin. 50 million. It wouldn't just save Ife, it would change their lives forever. Why me? She whispered. Because you spilled wine on a billionaire and didn't beg for mercy, Zane said, handing her a pen. I don't do happily ever after, Amara. I do contracts. This is the only one that matters. Amara looked at the pen. She thought of Ife's pale face in the hospital bed. She thought of the debt collectors knocking on her door. She took the pen and signed her name in bold, sweeping strokes. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Balogun, Zane said, his voice devoid of warmth. Try not to fall in love with me. It would complicate the exit strategy. The next week was a blur of high-fashion violence. Amara was stripped of her braids and her cotton dresses. She was fitted with silk, lace, and diamonds that felt like shackles. A team of stylists worked on her until she looked like a stranger in the mirror. Chin up, Amara, Zane said as they prepared for their first public appearance as an engaged couple. He reached out, his thumb brushing her jawline to tilt her head up. His touch sent a jolt through her that she tried to ignore. You're an architect. Think of this as a facade, a beautiful structural lie. I prefer buildings that have a solid foundation, she snapped. This feels like it's built on sand. Then don't look down, he replied. At the launch of a new tech hub, the pressure was suffocating. Zane's ex-girlfriend, Victoria, a woman who looked like she was carved from ice, cornered Amara near the bar. So you're the little charity case Zane picked up, Victoria sneered, looking Amara up and down. I give it a month. Zane doesn't like things that are used. Amara felt the heat rising in her chest. Before she could respond, a heavy arm settled around her waist. Zane pulled her flush against his side. The heat of his body was startling. Victoria, Zane said, his voice silky and dangerous. I see you're still confusing your opinion with something I care about. Amara isn't a project. She's the woman I've chosen. If you speak to her like that again, I'll ensure your father's logistics company loses the Balogun contract by morning. Am I clear? Victoria turned pale and scurried away. Amara looked up at Zane, surprised. You didn't have to do that. I protect my assets, Zane said, his eyes lingering on hers a second too long before he pulled away. The rising action of their fake life took a sharp turn when Zane's father, Chief Balogun, arrived unannounced at their mansion. The chief was a man of the old world, loud, suspicious, and deeply traditional. A sudden marriage, to a girl no one has heard of, the chief bellowed, slamming his cane on the marble floor. I'm staying here for a week. I want to see if this is a union of hearts or a union of convenience. If I find out this is a scam, Zane, I'll hand the company over to your cousin Marcus. Zane's jaw tightened. We have nothing to hide, father. Good, then you won't mind sharing that master suite, the chief grinned. I noticed Amara's things were being moved into the guest wing. Surely a honeymooning couple wouldn't want to be apart. That night the tension in the master bedroom was thick enough to choke on. The room was massive, but with Zane sitting on the edge of the bed unbuttoning his shirt, it felt tiny. Amara stood by the window, clutching her silk robe. The sofa is fine for me, she said quickly. My father checked the rooms at night, Zane said, his voice tired. He's been doing it since I was a child to make sure I was studying. He hasn't changed. Get in the bed, Amara. I won't bite. Amara climbed in, staying on the very edge. The silence stretched between them for hours. Why did you really do it? Zane asked suddenly into the dark. Is the money just for the surgery, or is there a plan for the rest? I want to build, Amara said softly. I want to design low-income housing that doesn't feel like a cage. I want my sister to go to a school where the roof doesn't leak. I'm not a martyr, Zane. I'm just a sister who didn't have any other options. She turned to face him. What about you? Is the empire worth a fake life? Don't you ever get lonely in that glass tower? Zane was silent for a long time. Loneliness is a luxury I can't afford. My mother died when I was 6. My father told me tears were a waste of hydration. He taught me that people are either tools or obstacles. I've lived my whole life by that. Amara reached out, her hand hovering over his in the dark. You're not a tool, Zane, and you're not a microchip. He turned his hand over and caught hers. His grip was firm, grounded. For the first time, the contract felt like it was miles away. That night, they didn't sleep as strangers. They slept as two wounded people holding onto each other in a storm. If you're enjoying this journey into the heart of Lagos luxury and longing, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We've got more stories of passion and power coming your way. Like this video if you think Zane is starting to melt. The following days were a dangerous dance. They shared breakfast, they shared laughs over the chief's eccentric stories, and they shared looks that lasted longer than the script required. Zane started coming home early. He brought Amara sketches of the housing projects she dreamed of, offering his top engineers to look them over. This is becoming real for you, isn't it? The chief asked Zane one afternoon on the balcony. It's a partnership, father, Zane said, though his eyes were tracking Amara as she walked through the garden. A partnership has a bottom line, the chief said. Love has no floor, be careful, son. A man who loves is a man who can be broken. The breaking point came faster than either of them expected. Victoria, fueled by spite and a private investigator, had found the one thing that could destroy them, the physical contract. Amara had kept her copy in a small jewelry box, a reminder of why she was there. While Amara was at the hospital visiting Ife, Victoria had bribed a maid and photographed the document. The next morning, the headlines were screaming. The 50 million Naira bride, Balogun marriage a fraud. Contract leaked, architect trades vows 4 surgery bills. The stock price of Balogun International plummeted. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. Zane's father walked into the breakfast nook and threw the newspaper onto the table. Explain this, the chief whispered, his voice shaking with rage. Amara felt the blood drain from her face. Zane stood up, his face an impenetrable mask of stone. It was an arrangement, father, to secure the transition. An arrangement, the chief looked at Amara. And you, were you just waiting for the check to clear? No, Amara said, her eyes filling with tears. It started that way, but... Enough, Zane shouted. Amara, go upstairs. Zane, we can explain. I said go. His voice cracked like a whip. Amara fled. She heard the shouting continue below. She heard the chief disinheriting Zane, calling him a disgrace to the Balogun name. She realized that by staying, she was the anchor dragging him down into the depths of a PR nightmare. If she was gone, he could claim he was the victim of a gold digger. He could save his empire. She packed her old bag. She left the diamonds on the vanity. She left the silk dresses in the closet. She took only the worn cotton dress she had arrived in. She scribbled a note. You told me not to fall in love. I'm sorry I failed the contract. Save your legacy, Zane. It's all you ever wanted. She slipped out the back entrance and took a yellow Danfo bus toward the hospital. The rain began to fall, the same Lagos rain that had started this whole story. At the hospital, Ife was awake, her cheeks finally holding a hint of color. "Amara, why are you crying? Did the prince be mean to you?" Amara hugged her sister, sobbing into her small shoulder. "No, Ife, the story just ended, that's all." But the story wasn't over. At the Balogun Tower, the board members were screaming for Zane's resignation. His father sat at the head of the table, waiting for Zane to sign a public statement denouncing Amara as a fraud so they could begin the cleanup. Zane looked at the statement. He looked at the pen, the same pen Amara had used to sign their fate. He thought of the way she looked in the moonlight, talking about houses for the poor. He thought of her spill on his suit and her refusal to blink in the face of his wealth. "I'm not signing it," Zane said. "Zane, if you don't, you lose everything," his father warned. "The buildings, the planes, the billions." "I've spent 32 years building a cage out of gold," Zane said, standing up. "I think I'd like to see what it's like to live outside of it." He walked out of the boardroom, leaving the most powerful men in Nigeria in stunned silence. He didn't take his limousine. He took his phone and hit "Go Live" on his social media account, which had millions of followers waiting for a scandal update. "My name is Zane Balogun," he said to the camera as he stepped into the rain. "And the rumors are true. I hired Amara to be my wife. I thought I could buy a life. I thought I could script a heart." He hailed a taxi, something he hadn't done in a decade. "But in the process of faking a marriage, I accidentally found the only real thing I've ever known. Amara didn't scam me. I scammed myself into thinking I didn't need her. I don't care about the inheritance. I care about the woman who taught me that a person isn't an asset." The video went viral instantly. The Iron King was melting in real time in the back of a dusty taxi heading toward the mainland. Amara saw the video on a nurse's phone. Her heart leaped into her throat. She ran to the hospital entrance just as a taxi screeched to a halt. Zane stepped out, soaked to the bone, looking nothing like a billionaire and everything like a man in love. He walked up to her, the cameras of onlookers recording every second. He didn't have a ring. He didn't have a contract. "The 50 million is in your account," he said, breathing hard. "It's yours, no strings, no year-long wait. The surgery is paid for." "Then why are you here?" Amara whispered. "Because I tore up the contract," Zane said, taking her hands. "And I realized I have no idea how to be a person without you. I don't want a wife for a year, Amara. I want a partner for the rest of the construction. I want to build those houses with you. I want to be the man you thought I could be." Amara looked at him, really looked at him. The coldness was gone. The microchips were replaced by a raw, terrifying vulnerability. "You're going to be very poor compared to last week," she joked through her tears. "I think I'll be just fine," he smiled, a real, genuine smile that broke across his face like dawn. He kissed her then, right there in the rain at the hospital entrance, as the world watched a transaction turn into a transformation. 6 months later, the Lagos sun was shining on a new construction site. It wasn't a glass tower. It was a community center, the first of many. Eve ran through the foundation, healthy and laughing, chasing a golden retriever. Zane stood next to Amara, his sleeves rolled up, looking over a set of blueprints. He wasn't the Iron King anymore. He was a man who had learned that wealth isn't what you have in the bank, but who you have in your heart. They didn't have a contract anymore. They had something much more expensive and much more permanent. If you loved this story of love winning over greed, don't forget to like this video and comment below with your favorite part. Did you predict the twist? What should our next story be about? Subscribe to stay updated on the most captivating stories in the city.